Well, welcome back, everybody. Hello, and welcome to the Unlocked podcast. I am so excited about our key guest today. She is amazing, phenomenal, has brilliancy inside of her, wisdom that is beyond, and I am so excited to hear her testimony, excited for you guys to hear her testimony, and just for us to chit chat like we always do.
Yeah.
It's so fun. So welcome, Lashanda Morris.
Thanks, Brittany. I'm happy to be here. This is
Really
awesome.
happy to be here. We were talking before about how your day was, and you brought up, like, what is it, the real ID?
Yeah. I'm perplexed by it.
Me too. I don't understand it.
I don't either.
Honestly, it's supposed to be out in, like, what, 2 years?
Actually, next year.
Wait, what?
Yeah. And so that's the reason why I ended up having to, like, go and get it, because I was like, I'm not paying to get a renewal this year and then a renewal next year because it's going to be required for travel.
Wait, does it replace our license as
So
well?
you're not required to get it,
Okay.
but in order to, like, I think travel on an airplane, you have to.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
It kind of, they say it everywhere, but honestly, I thought that they said it and it was like a year ago, and I still had like 5 years.
Yeah, it feels like that. It comes up quick.
No, honestly, that's wild. And so you drove all the way out to KOP to get it?
Yeah, because they had like there's no real ID centers in Philly. So you go out there, you can get it right away without having to wait.
Of course, there's not any real ID center. Like, I mean, how are you supposed to get it? Like,
Right.
for real though.
So
They make it
they
harder
mail it
for
to
you.
you.
Oh, okay.
So like if you go to the real ID center, they can give it to you on the spot.
Oh,
So I was just like, I need it right away because
Yeah.
So I don't want to wait.
what all do you have to? You have to bring your passport, your license. Yeah, give us some information about what we need, because we all know we're gonna need this before next year. So give us some info.
So yeah, you just need something like a passport, birth certificate, something like that.
Just one thing.
No, you need 3 different things.
Stop.
So that's number one, and
It's
that's
like
for
getting your
your
birth certificate again.
That is for your basically to show your identity.
Okay.
And then you need you need 2 other documents to support like your address, and so you need like a piece of mail.
Yeah, like a bill or something that
something
comes in.
like
Okay,
that.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you also need your you also need your social security card.
I mean,
Yeah, or you can use your W-2.
okay.
But it has to have your social security number on it.
Okay.
So something with your social security. And they provide you like a document checklist, so it's like super easy.
Did you have to like you had to get in not just, you couldn't just show up, you had to make an appointment?
No, I just showed up.
Okay. And
But they said that depending on if you are if you got your Philadelphia, or not Philadelphia, your PA license after I think 2016,
yeah.
they should have your information on record. So you can
that's
actually
me.
just submit it, and then
That's
they can
me.
send it to you in like 15 business days.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
So it's pretty quick and
Okay.
easy. So
Well,
it's not too bad.
I guess I'll be doing that soon, adulting things.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my favorite thing to do.
Not mine. I'm so bad at it.
I like procrastinate so badly. The only thing that I'll get done adulting wise is getting my oil changed, because my dad was so like, he gave us a car, right? He gave me my first 2 cars and he bought them for me. But he was like, all right, did you check the oil today? Like, when's the last time you checked the oil? And like, if a month went by and I had not checked the oil in that thing, it was
I'm even
a
mad at that.
stern pointing in my face and looking at me. So
At least you have that. I don't even have that.
I probably have an unrealistic fear of my engine blowing up, because I'm scared.
That's so true. That's probably yeah.
It's that fear. It's that fear of a dad.
He's like put it in you so you can't get away from it now.
No, true. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
grateful for it, but also had to do some counseling for it too. But
That's the same with my mom. My mom tells me like, did you lock the door? Now, like before I go to bed, I'm like checking the door twice.
You're like laying down and you're like, oh gosh,
Did
I have
that
to
lock
go.
the door?
I do that too. I do that too with my car. And then I'll just lay there and I'm like, let's literally 60 seconds of your life just getting up. And
Yeah,
and
I say that to myself
it's
all the
literally like you're
time.
going to lay there for another 5 minutes before you get up. Like, what's 60 seconds? And then you can just come and enjoy,
Right.
you know?
Yes,
Literally.
I do that too.
Yeah, it's so good. It's good. Well, how you been?
I've been good. Just, trying to like deepen my relationship with God.
How are you doing? Like, I feel like you're just so already in there.
No.
Every time I'm with you, I
that-
learn so much.
I
I
think-
leave and I'm like, this was so good. It was solid, you know?
I think, I guess maybe, I don't know if like everyone thinks that way, but I think people look at me and they'll say that. And I'm like, I don't feel that way at all.
Mhm.
I feel like I could go deeper. I feel like I'm not
I
deep
love that.
enough.
I love that though.
I literally feel that way.
I
Like
love
even
it.
when you tell me, I'm
Mhm.
like, I don't feel it. I just feel like I want more. I want to go deeper. I want more of God than anyone else.
I love
You know
it.
what I'm saying? And I'm like, I don't think I do enough, but I think like I'm trying to learn to just sit in his presence
Mm.
and not worry so much about what I'm doing or not doing, But that's a process because you have to like unlearn all those things you tell yourself, like you have to do this or you have to be here and you have to do this. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, I think like I'm just in a place of like learning to rest and just sit in his presence and also like be obedient to him.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Like I
Mhm.
think about maybe a month and a half ago, I said I've been praying this prayer about like I want to love God more.
Mm.
And I thought to myself like, okay, what does that look like?
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? And going through the Bible and reading it, I realized like loving God is being obedient to God. You know what I'm saying? And so I realized like I have to be obedient to him and learn to listen.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you get to a place where you're like, is that God? Is that me?
Mm.
And I'm like learning to like discern his voice and to try to just be obedient,
Mhm.
even if it feels risky or it
Yeah.
feels like I'm unsure, just taking that step.
Yeah.
Because I feel like just taking that step, you're going to learn. You know what I'm saying? And God,
Oh yeah.
he's looking out for you. So
Yeah, always.
yeah.
When you say rest in his presence or like sit in his presence, does that look like you during your time with the Lord outside of church, outside of Bible study, literally turning off any piece of music, putting away your devotions, putting away your Bible, and literally just sitting there? Or does it mean like I'm opening up my word, I'm listening to you, and I'm sitting with you? Like, what does that look like?
All of that.
Okay.
It looks like all of that. So there's a thing that I started also a little while back. Is just like after like work, just turning everything off and just sitting there and just like being with him. Even if it's just, I don't know what I'm doing, even if it's just, I'm sitting there eating my dinner, just sitting.
Do you find that you hear God in those moments more, or do you feel his presence more? Or like, do you feel like you just are like, I'm decompressing and I'm just like reflecting on my day?
Yeah, I think it's more of,
because I think it's hard to just sit.
Yeah.
Like if I'm just sitting, like that's hard for me.
Yeah.
And I know that's what you said. It's like a process and you're learning to do it, but like just sitting there without the Bible, just sitting there and like staring and like looking around, my mind then just wonders. And I'm like, that's the enemy. You got to stop, whatever. And I try to like focus back. But if I don't have something like it's very difficult. So
yeah. I think it's also about enjoying being with him. Just like how we're just like sitting here and talking.
Yeah.
I think it is hard. Your mind does wander. It goes to like 20 million different places while you're there. But I think everything that we do, it takes practice and discipline, right? Like I say this to people all the time, like you're good at what you do. Whatever it is that you're doing, whatever skill you have is because you've done it over and over and over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so to me, I try to apply that same process or thought to like my relationship with God, is that some things are not going to come as easy, but it just takes time and doing it over and over and over again until it comes natural.
And it doesn't have to be for me 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour. There's this guy I work with, and he was like, I think it was around like last year, Steven. He was like, I'm going to sit with the Lord. Like I pray. And he said, I started off like 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30. And he got up to an hour of just like praying by himself in the morning time after his devotions. And I'm like, I'm like such a like go after it full force. Like, no, I'm going to sit for an hour and I'm gonna do this, or I'm not gonna do it at all. Like I need to learn the in between.
Yeah. Like I remember I did that same thing.
And I can apply that to so many things in my life. Like honestly,
I started out with like, I'm just going to give God, because I think what I realized is that I was spending time with God in the morning and then with him at night. But then the whole entire day, I was focused on work or whatever I was doing. And I thought to myself, like, if I were in a relationship and I was dating someone and they only called me in the morning and at night, I would not feel great about that. Right? Like, it's great. Wake up in the morning, do 30 minutes or an hour, you talk, you get ready together, whatever. I don't know. Okay. Like, you're on the phone, you know what I'm saying? And then you come home and then you talk for like maybe 30 minutes for an hour and then go to bed. Talk about your day, whatever. But it's a beautiful thing when you're in a relationship and you're able to like, good morning, pray together or talk before your day starts. And then you check in on each other throughout the day. And then you kind of like decompress at the end of the day. Yeah. And I thought to myself, like, wow, like I'm not doing that with God. And that's supposed to be my most important relationship. But sometimes I don't treat it like that.
I think I kind of learned like that, like in 2017, 2018, I was out on the mission field. I was overseas, and every day it was our job, right, to spread the gospel. So you looked for around the corner, you looked in the line at Starbucks, you looked in the line at KFC, because everybody knows there's a KFC in every country.
Yeah, that's true.
It's so true, right? When you get tired of all the other food, you just go to something consistent, you know? KFC, baby, KFC. But you look for every opportunity. Where is God in this? Okay, I'm praying about going to KFC. If he says no, I know that sounds so spiritual, but like I want to give him every part of my day. And so I feel like I did that for that amount of time. And when I came back, I was really like doing that well. And I think I find myself sometimes here not doing that well throughout the day. And that's how my relationship with the Lord is. It's not like I have to have a Bible out wherever I'm going and keep it in my back pocket. Although our phone it's a really great tool. But like, I find that I'm like, okay, there's a reason why my car didn't start. Like, there's a reason why that I felt drawn to go to Dunkin' Donuts instead of Starbucks, or not eat with this person and go out to eat with this person. Like there's a reason, and the Lord is with me, and Holy Spirit is stirring that in me. And that's how I walk with the Lord and like my relationship with him, like let him use me in that way. I think it's just like so fun. It's so fun.
When you're as you're talking, like I'm thinking about like, we have to allow the Holy Spirit to draw us. You know what I'm saying? Like, like I think there's a thing about when you think about a sheep and a shepherd. Okay. They follow. Yeah. They are following the shepherd. You know what I'm saying? And so like I think like there's something where we kind of want to like hold on to that control. And there's just so much joy and peace and just allowing freedom in allowing God to just draw you and pull you where he wants to, wherever he wants you to go. You know what I'm saying? Like listening to that. And that's kind of like what I thought about as like you were talking, is just like allow God to draw you to himself and draw you to where he wants you to go.
Is there like I can think about my life, and there are specific times in my walk with the Lord where there's this one moment where one person prayed for me this random prayer where they did not know that it was going to be powerful, right? But in obedience during worship, they came over and they spoke this over me. Random, or in the lobby of wherever we were, like they spoke this over me, or they shot me a text message, hey, I want to pray for you. Can you just call me? I'm going to pray for you, and prayed for me. Like they didn't realize it was going to be such an impact. And how many times have we missed those opportunities to pray for people where God could have used us to be that impact for that person? Like, I'm not saying, oh, look at me, look at where I am, but I'm saying like those things changed my life. And how am I going to be used to change somebody else's life? Like, how is God going to use me? And I think about it often, like, there's a balance, right? Of saying like, not being like, not punishing myself for not doing those things. Cause I used to like, especially when I did it every single day, but and came back and like, what did I do for the Lord today? Like I didn't even hear him while I was walking in the grocery store. And I used to be really like shame and guilt put on me because I know how impactful it can be, So there's definitely a balance, but also there's so much freedom and joy when you do things like that, And it's not for your own good, but it just like, he fills your cup, like it fills your cup when you do your purpose,
Yeah.
It's so good.
And I've failed at that so many times. And I think like I'm really like learning to just take that step of faith. Like you said, just if God is calling you to go here or speak to that person, like just take that step of faith and just go, because like, I think it's like, you actually said something to me. I think it was last year. And I think it's such a amazing thing. I think it's amazing the fact that you said it, because I think that's how we should think about when we feel led to say things to people or to go somewhere, is that if you're wrong about what you say to someone, then what's the worst that can happen?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think like the intention behind it, I think it's like really about your intention.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because you could have really bad intentions and like go the wrong route and tell people things and like not be a good outcome.
Yeah. But or you're trying to tell somebody on February 21st, you're going to get pregnant, or like you're going to get married, or like those types of things, right? Like a false prophet type thing.
Right. Yeah. Like, and I think like that's different than I am really trying to surrender and be obedient to God, and God knows your heart posture, and you are just really just taking that step of faith.
There's this new song that we just sung at church. And it's like, I don't care if I look like a fool.
Yes.
Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
And I think that's like the point of it. It's like, people need Jesus. Like, they're searching for everything in so many places. They need it. They want it. Whether they know it or not, like, that is the truth. The truth of this spiritual thing that you're trying to search out in rocks and the stars and reading your birth chart and whatever it may be, it's Jesus.
Yeah.
He's the truth. He's real. And it's like, I don't care if I look like a fool trying to tell you about it, because oh my gosh, I've been set free by him.
Right.
Yeah. It's so good. How did you get to this point? Like, let me rephrase that. What has been have you been a believer your whole life?
I would say yes.
Since a young age. You can remember when you gave your life to Jesus. Yeah.
Like I actually gave my life to Christ at 12, actually.
Okay.
The most beautiful experience ever. And I tell people all the time, like, I didn't choose God that day. God chose me. And like, I know like he chooses everyone, but like, I went to church not knowing that was going to happen.
With your parents, with your grandmother, with your dad?
With actually my cousins.
Okay.
My older cousins. And it was actually like a Good Friday service. And I didn't want to go. I was a kid. I didn't want to go. I'm like, oh, I got to go to church. And I was so upset. And I went, and I remember, they went through the reenactment of Jesus going to the cross and everything, and it touched my heart. It literally touched
At
my
the age of
heart.
12.
Yes.
So you gave your life then. What's been like the hardest like period since being a Christian? Like, has there been I'm sure there's several, like maybe one more recent than others, but like, is there a time you're like, I'm debating on this thing called faith, this Christianity thing? Like, this is hard, or I know, but I'm gonna choose not to follow the Lord, or like do what He's telling me to do, right? Like, make a big circle around. Like, I'm supposed to do this, but yet Is there been a time like that for you?
Yeah, multiple times. I think like I can point back to like probably like 2 times specifically where I feel like that was like really hard for me. I think the first time was when I knew that I was supposed to go into ministry, and I knew that God spoke to me about that. And I just allowed like the noise and the crowd and everyone around me to kind of like just steer me differently than what I knew, like what God was calling me to. And when I went away to school, I should have went to like seminary, and I didn't. And that was my plan. I was like, yeah, this is what I'm doing. And I was telling everyone like, yeah, I'm going to be a pastor. And I was like so sure about it. And then I think towards the end of like my senior year, I kind of changed. And I can't really pinpoint specifically why. I think it was just like ambition and like wanting to like do other things came in the way. And then I went away to school, and I'm telling you, I cried so much, like asking God, like, what am I supposed to do? Is this where I'm supposed to be? I just felt so like uneasy about like where I was like, I don't feel like this is it, but what am I supposed to do? And I remember I went back home to Florida, and I distinctively remember at my cousin's house, and she was on the stairs, and I was walking up the stairs, and she says to me, "You know that this is not what you're supposed to be doing."
Stop. Was this the same cousins that you were with when you gave your life to?
Yeah.
Wow.
And she just nothing, like there was no
And then
like
just walked, mic drop, and just walked away. There was no.
Yeah, there was like, it's not like we were talking about that or anything like that. She just like said it. It was like one of those moments where you know, like, this is God.
Yeah.
And so like I think like I kind of like lived with that, and that was like probably like one of my biggest regrets, like not doing that and trying to figure that out. So yeah, I think like that's probably like one of the bigger moments, because I always like go back to that and like wonder like, what if I had chosen that path?
Do you still feel like that's something that is on your heart, and you feel like the Lord can still use you in that, like a pastor, or like?
I don't know if it's specifically a pastor anymore, but I think where God is drawing me is like, honestly, what I've been feeling in the last like probably couple of years is more so missionary. Like, and I don't know in what capacity. It doesn't have to mean like me going overseas and doing something, but my heart feels really drawn to that and pulled to that. And yeah, like I think it's just been in the last, like I think maybe 2 or 3 years where I've really like looked more into it, been praying more for just our brothers and sisters in Christ all around the world and what they're going through. I've been reading about it. And I just feel like my heart is drawn to that specifically.
I feel like the listeners, the people that are watching this, there's questions in their minds too, like, oh, maybe I missed my opportunity. Maybe I missed my calling on what the Lord's called me to do. and like I feel like there's no hope, or I feel like I really messed up. I'm a year out from it, or maybe I'm 50 and still regretting that, and therefore I'm not moving on from it, right?
Yeah.
I feel like you've moved on, right? I mean, and how I know that is your fruit, the way that you carry yourself, your leadership, how you speak to people, your heart for the Lord, your compassion for people, empathy, your wisdom. Like I can see that you've moved. But what do you say to people that feel like, oh, I missed it? Maybe it's a college student and they're going through the same thing you did. Like, what would you say to them?
So, and I've thought about this a lot, and I think one of the things like I always remind myself is that our goal here on earth is to be with the Father at the end of the day. Do you get what I'm saying? So like if you spend 40, 50 years in ministry, or you spend a year in ministry, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you're giving yourself over to God. You know what I'm saying? Like you're surrendering yourself to him. And I think ultimately that's what he desires. He desires for us to surrender ourselves to him, and so that he can use us in whatever capacity. And it's never too late for that. You know what I'm saying? Like it's never, ever too late for that.
Yeah.
And I think about like all the people that we read about in the Bible and how God used them, and how some of them waited years, you know what I'm saying? Like years in order for God to like actually fulfill whatever he told them.
Yeah.
And sometimes it just takes time.
Yeah.
But I also like, I'm reminded of something like someone said, is that, all of the things that you go through really develop you, and it's part of your testimony, and it also helps other people, because
100.
a lot of all the things that I've gone through allows me to speak to other people
the way that I can't.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like that's a beautiful thing, is that it doesn't matter at the end of the day. It doesn't matter how long, if you made the wrong turn, if it was like 30 years ago or a year ago, and you should have done something that you thought God was leading you to. I think God desires a humble heart.
Yeah.
A heart surrendered to him.
Yeah.
And it's such a beautiful thing when you read in the Bible about how many people went the wrong way, and as soon as they surrendered themselves to him and just humbled themselves to him, how he changed everything.
Yeah. I love in the Bible how it always says, and they cried out to the Lord.
Yes.
They cried, I mean, over in the Old Testament and the New Testament, over and over and over again. And then they cried out to the Lord. They cried out to him. And it's like, it's true. You're talking and it just reminds me of just so many things in my life as well. Like, I can remember, I mean, there's so many times in my life where I can remember, I look back now and I'm like, oh, that's God calling me. And I knew in the moment, but I didn't think I was worth it or good enough for it. Right? Nobody in my family's this. And it led me down a path of going from graduating in 2007 from high school, the Lord putting me in a Bible school where like I didn't want to do. Everybody around me was like family counseling, pastor, missionary, all these things, and I'm like a psychology major. I want to go be an occupational therapist, right? And just looking back, it's just so funny. And he was so patient and so kind to me, and still use me in those moments. He's not going to be like, okay, because you're not walking down the path that I have for you, like, I'm not going to use you. Like, how foolish are we to say that about ourselves? Like, I feel like that's so conceited. Like, the Lord made us to give him praise, to bring kingdom, and like, he's not going to.
And I think like
it's
the whole point of all of this is that the whole point of Jesus coming and dying was so that we could be in a relationship with God. That is it.
Yeah.
Our relationship with God is like the most important thing.
Yeah.
And that is what I'm trying to like remind myself and like get my mind, like wrap my mind around, that is that nothing else matters. My relationship with God is the most important thing. And that is the reason why Jesus came and he died, so that we could be in right relationship with God.
Yes.
Right? And we can bridge that gap.
Yes.
And I think once you realize that, and you learn to surrender yourself to that and learn to really devote yourself to having like a true, honest relationship with God, the outflow of that is your ministry.
Exactly. That's literally what I was going to say. It's just such the truth. Like people, they might hear you say that, right?
Yeah.
They might hear you say your number one is God, but like because your relationship with Him comes first before anything else. Out of the abundance, out of the
Yes.
overflow of your relationship with the Lord, you're going to live as missional as possible.
You cannot help it.
You're going to be the light in the darkness. Like His Spirit invades you. Your renewed mind, renewed spirit, it just is what it is. Like, and now that you're going to want to look for people, you're going to want to share your testimony. You're going to want to like read the Bible. You're going to want to sit quietly for an hour without anything.
And He's going to place people in your life.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I think like that is, Brittany, that is like the best thing. If there's nothing else anyone else remembers, I hope they just remember that. That is all they need to remember, is that your relationship with God is the most important relationship you have in your life. And any ministry or any purpose you feel like you missed or you want to have, like just get your relationship with God right. And the overflow of that is your purpose, your ministry.
Yeah.
You know, and like it seems really simple, but it's actually really hard because like getting into a right relationship with God also requires that you let go some things, you know?
Like what, Lashanda? What do you feel like you've let go of here recently?
No, I'm just like, it does. Sometimes having a right relationship with God requires that you let go of things and people in your life and habits. You know what I'm saying? And I think sometimes we have idols in our lives.
Can we just talk about it?
Go ahead.
Can we just talk about it?
Go ahead. I love how you're like, can we just talk about it?
Can we? So 2 months ago now, has it been 2 months?
It's almost, not quite, but a little bit over a month and a half. Yeah.
Learned so much from you. I love that you just talked to me about all the things. You were dating somebody who was a believer, loved the Lord, sacrificed a lot of his time, lived 6 hours away, would drive to you, pay for his own Airbnb hotel just to be able to see you the next day.
Yeah.
Really had hard conversations. It felt like this is it.
Yeah. I mean, it did for me too. And I think one of the things like when you go through a breakup, you have a lot of reflection, you know, and I think.
By the way, they did break up. So we're talking after the fact.
Yes.
Yeah.
You tend to have a lot of reflection. And I think I'm learning to walk through this in the right way. And that means like even things that like I would feel like I would want to do, or the tendency of my heart would be to be upset or bitter or any of those things. Like I'm learning to like let those go, because that's not what God wants for me. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes like we want things that God does not want for us, you know? And
say that again one more time. Say it again.
We want things that God does not want for us. And one of the things like I look back and I think to myself is that when I began this relationship, I wanted what I wanted more than what God wanted. And I didn't sit long enough with him and ask him truly like what direction he really saw this relationship. And it's not saying that I didn't pray about it or I didn't. Yeah. But sometimes you're praying, but you're not listening. So good. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like you're praying and you're like, okay, I think this is right. And
Yeah.
it's like, okay, you're going to go and you're going to do whatever.
Mhm.
But sometimes you pray to God and you think you feel a way or you think a way is the right way and it's not.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I didn't sit long enough to know what God really wanted, either from me or from that relationship, or what direction he really saw it going. And I think if I could go back, that's one thing I would probably do. And so like, it's so funny coming out of that and like even talking to people now, I'm like, make sure you sit with God in this. Whenever I'm talking to someone about a relationship, that's my first thing.
Yeah.
Sit with him in this.
Like, you feel like, because, you know, even like, I'm going to go ahead and say it, my mother, my father, my parents in my life, like, they're like, you're just too picky. You're just too, there's just all of these whatever. And I have pleased them multiple times with my relationships that I've picked because they want me to be in a relationship so bad. And it's a good guy, but it's not. I'm not saying there's just one person out there, but they don't know the Lord, the ones that I've picked, right?
Yeah.
I'm pleasing the Lord, right? I'm pleasing my parents. I'm not pleasing the Lord. I know what I should and shouldn't, and I just go ahead because I'm pleasing. I feel like this relationship, he loved the Lord. He loved Jesus. Of course, there's going to be things, right? There's going to be things, politics, beliefs, and there are some beliefs where it's like, okay, there's not whatever, but he was, you know, so you sit with the Lord and the Lord says, this isn't the one for you because, you know what I mean? Like, how do you differentiate from that? Like, he's a good, loving man.
Yeah. So
Is it because the Lord knows that your like personalities won't go together or sit with it? Like, what does that look like? Yeah. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do get what you're saying. And I think like the best way that I can describe that, and one of the things like he actually said was that I don't have peace about this. And I think like that's really important.
Yes. Yes. If you're having to question it,
yeah,
I feel like it's not right.
Yeah. And I think like that's the crux of it all. Like,
yes,
if there's no peace, if you do have to question it,
yeah,
then there lies the problem.
yeah. Coming out of this relationship, I feel like you just like that, just from the very beginning of when we started talking, you were like, I just want more of the Lord. I just want more of him. I feel like he's really fanned that flame in your heart to want to know him more and in a different way. Has it been different coming out of that relationship with the Lord, and what has been different?
I think I'm learning.
It was hard. That was hard for you.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I want you to answer the question, but I want you guys to know, like, I mean, that's not easy. I mean, tears, crying. I mean, obviously, whatever. But like, I don't know. Like, should I? Like, why? Why do I feel this way? There are these things, of course, but also like so hard. But I'm gonna be obedient. This is the sum of it all. I'm gonna be obedient, and I'm gonna spend 2 weeks away from this person without talking. You felt like that's what the Lord just told you to do. Well, it was more than 2 weeks.
It was more than 2 weeks. It was actually 5 weeks.
Yeah. During Valentine's Day too.
Yeah.
Okay. I remember that and be like, I don't know if I'd be able to do that. I want a good Valentine's. And like, if I have a guy in my life.
We actually both felt very strongly about it. I remember when I actually said, you know what, maybe we should just take a step back from each other. And I remember feeling just this like rush of like God had space in the it was the weirdest feeling, and I can't even explain it to you. It just felt like God now had space, and all I said to him was, maybe we should just not talk as much and just take a step back and like be like how we were in the beginning,
because
like,
you were questioning it.
I think we were both at a point where we were kind of like off balance because we were like arguing about like stuff all the time. Okay. And so I think like we were coming out of all of that. And
how long were you guys together before this?
Before that moment?
Yeah.
I think 7.5 months.
Okay. So it wasn't like a 3-year relationship. Some people, I love that.
Yeah. And so like as soon as I said that, I just felt like this is right. I felt it, no question. And everyone, like, I had some people like, okay, well, it's a new relationship. Why do you need to take a break? And I was like, I just feel like this is what God wants.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I think one of the things like I immediately thought when we were taking that break was that this is a time for us to really find our first love again. Because I feel like we got so caught up into each other. And, you know, I'm not saying like we made each other idols, but I think like it was getting to that point where it's like God needed to have his space back. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think like that was where we decided that we're going to take this time apart and we're going to like spend our time with God and find that first love again. You know what I'm saying?
Good.
And so we took 5 weeks. And then after that 5 weeks, when came back together, that's when we ended up breaking up within that week of us, you know, coming back together. And it was rough. Yeah. It was rough. But I think like what I took from it is that what God has for you, God has for you. Yeah. And God has good things for you. Yeah. And you can't like not trust that. You know, and I remember listening to this this lady, and she said, if I can't understand like basically what God is doing, I'm just going to learn to trust his heart. And that was like the deepest thing for me. And that made me just understand everything in a totally different perspective. And that I don't understand this. I don't know why this happened. And I don't know what's going to happen now, but I just know that I can trust God's heart because God is a good God. God is a loving God. Yes. And if I profess that I am a Christian and that Jesus died for me and that God is sovereign and loving and good, and that, you know, all these things that I profess to believe, then I can trust that he has a good heart, even when I don't feel it. Yeah. You know?
I feel like we make so many excuses for ourselves too. Not to like, I'm not to like throw you under the bus with all of this, okay? Right?
It's okay.
I'm not trying to throw her under this bus, but we're not like in our early 20s anymore looking for a husband and like, oh, that one just didn't work. Right? Like we're in our 30s. Yeah. It's like, and there's not a lot out here, like, you know, and you could have easily made an excuse for yourself and put those things aside and press forward, and you didn't. Yeah. And I look at that and I'm like, okay, this is good. Like it was you hadn't dated anybody in a while before that, right?
Yeah. Like,
so this is like,
I actually dated someone before that. And I knew that also God was not calling
like
me to
a year
that.
Before?
It was like probably like a year and a half before that.
Yeah, it's not like, so I just like for people out there saying, yeah, but like I'm getting older or like I can't find a Christian man, like just trust that God is sovereign. He has you. He trust his heart.
Yeah, trust his heart. And I think one of the things I'm also like learning and even processing myself, still working my way through this, is that nothing is guaranteed, right? In the sense that, you know, you can go ahead and tomorrow find the most amazing person, right? Either guy or woman, you know, and get married and have children. That does not guarantee that your life is going to be perfect and that there's not going to be a next problem. Yeah. Right? At the end of the day, whether or not you get married or not, you could have 80 years on this earth, 90 years on this earth. What you're living for right now is eternity.
Yeah. It just goes back to it.
It goes back to that.
The one thing to take away from this podcast.
And I don't mean to be like morbid, but like I've seen people get married and then something happens to the spouse the next day.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I'm saying? And it's just like, your contentment needs to be in the Lord.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
it needs to be in the Lord.
Yeah.
And you need to understand that, like, he's your everything.
Yeah. And there's a difference between being like hard-headed. I mean, there's just such a balance in that. And I feel like our world today is like, I don't need no man. I don't need no whatever. And like, that's not how we are.
No.
Right? We know that like Adam and Eve,
marriage
from the very
is a
beginning,
beautiful
it's
thing.
amazing. And
yes,
we want that.
Yes.
But if not, Lord,
yes,
I'm still surrendered to you.
Yes.
And it's so, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
I don't think I don't think anyone needs to say like marriage is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And if you desire marriage, that's amazing. But at the end of the day,
keep surrendering.
Yeah, keep surrendering. We are here and we are going towards eternity.
Yeah.
Everyone. The clock is ticking towards eternity.
Yeah.
Every second, every minute that you have, you're getting closer and closer to eternity. And so spend your time seeking the Lord, because guess what? When you enter into eternity,
mm-hmm.
what matters at that point is your relationship with God, because you're in an eternal relationship with him. You know, and that's so a beautiful thing.
So good.
Yeah.
So good. Oh man, there's so many nuggets. Oh my gosh, it's so good. I just like, whenever I leave speaking or having coffee with you or sitting down with you, it can even be like, I'm always just like, wait, I think I just got hit in the face. Like, it's just so good. There's so many things.
Yeah, I love it.
Okay. Before we leave, I want to ask you 2 questions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. One, I think you kind of already answered it, and so you can just elaborate on it more, or you can't, or you can just say whatever. But like, what are you like passionate about right now? Like, what do you feel like the Lord? Okay, difference between I'm passionate about. Well, no. Everything. I feel like. Oh, okay. Let me explain this. I feel it's so good. This question was asked to me. And these are why I'm asking this specific question. And it changed my life. Mm-hmm. Literally changed the trajectory of like where I'm going. I started spending time with Jesus and learning how to read the Bible. And then I started thinking, oh, adoption, oh, culture, oh, missions, oh, evangelism, oh, sharing like these things just started coming. And it's cool because it changes in the seasons, right?
It does.
It changes. Mm-hmm. But these passions, which I mean, these things that are bubbling up inside of me, whether it was like painting my nails or hanging out in the pasture and feeding whatever it may be, those things are in there because I'm spending time with the Lord and He's putting them inside of me. So what is your passion?
I think, so you're right. I did say it before, and I think it has to do with missions. Mm-hmm. And I think, interestingly enough, when I went back and I told you, like, I wanted to be a pastor, mm-hmm. and I thought, like, yeah, I'm going to go to like seminary and be a pastor. Mm-hmm. What I actually chose to do was go to school, and I did international business. You know, and I've always loved mm-hmm. like just other cultures and learning and just like people that are different. I've always like I've been drawn to that. Mm-hmm. And so like even now when I look back and I'm like, yeah, if I could go back, I would change this. But then I look at it and I'm like, this has been something that's like just been there like my whole entire life.
And who knows if you were going to be a pastor up to this point and the Lord was like waiting at this time, like you're pastoral, whatever. And then He's like, oh yeah, missions now. It's like, it's going to all come back. Like he's such a generous and loving and kind God. Like it's all going to, maybe we're supposed to take that, but like here you are now. It's so good. Yeah. It's so good. It's so good. Okay. Last question. Mm-hmm. Life hack. Do you have a life hack? Have you thought of one? Do you know?
No.
Okay, hold on. Let me tell you mine that has, and maybe it'll trigger something in you. This is so minute, you guys, but also I'm just trying to help you out. I literally am just trying to help you out. As we exit coat season and going to spring, we're in summer, in your coat, you know, as you go inside, open up your door, there is we forget about it. You know how sometimes you hang up your coat and then the hook has like put this little indent in your coat? Mm-hmm. There's a little inside on your tag. There's a little like hook, it's made for you. So don't forget about that. Use it. Life hack.
Yeah. Do I have any life hacks? Ugh, I don't think I do, Brittany.
Baking, anything with baking, anything with.
I can barely bake. The only baking I do is banana bread, okay?
Oh, speaking my language. I love some banana bread. Okay. Cleaning your shoes, keeping your laundry, turning your clothes inside out or something, any of that, none of that. No life hacks.
No, I don't think so. I can't, or at least I can't even think of any
right now.
Like right now.
It can be something that you probably do every day and you're like, I think everybody should know this. Like the other day I saw on like TikTok where it was talking about, yes, I watched TikTok. Where it's like the trash bags are turned inside out because you're supposed to put them on this way. It's maybe something that you do just every day and know, and you're like, oh yeah, everybody should know this. And it's like, no, we don't know that, Lashanda, but it's okay. Yeah. We'll drop it in the comment section or something if you think of one later.
Yeah. Cause I can't think of any right now.
Okay. That's great. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Lashanda, I really appreciate you coming on the Unlocked podcast.
This too. Like, I have to say, I love and appreciate our relationship and our friendship, and I'm so glad for what God is doing here. And you know, I'm learning and I'm growing, and I'm thankful for how you're impacting me in my life.
Love you so much.
Love you too.
For real. All right. Hope you guys are watching this as well on YouTube, podcast, Apple, Spotify. If you are listening to this, I guess it's there already. You already know where it's at. But all right. See you next time.